Healthcare. We're going to kick things off with Charles Holive. He's the Global Head of Data Monetization Strategy at Sisense. And today he's going to talk to us about analytics monetization and business growth in healthcare. So Charles's group is designed to accelerate digital transformation by driving business innovation with chief data officers and CXOs across industries towards new revenue streams by leveraging Sisense cloud platform to infuse analytics into high-margin commercial offerings. Charles joined Sisense from GE Healthcare, where he actually spent 15 years in various leadership positions globally. As the Executive Vice President of Analytics and AI for Digital Product Management, Charles pitched, incubated, staffed, launched, and scaled the analytics and AI business unit from 0 to tens of millions of high-margin recurring revenue by infusing analytics across the various GE Healthcare business units. All right, I'm going to go ahead and bring up Charles up onto our DATAcated stage. Hello, Charles. Welcome.
Thank you, Kate. Hi, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be with you today. I'm calling in from New York. Hopefully you see a little bit of that background.
I can see the background. Yes, I'm calling in from New York too. You'll hear the sirens from Main Street flying by.
I'm here.
So, Charles, I won't take up much of your time. I'm gonna leave the virtual stage and I'll share your screen and I'll see you in about 10 minutes.
Thank you, Kate. Well, thanks everyone. Thanks for the organization. I'm really excited to be participating today. The opportunity with data is limitless. And so what I wanted to focus my attention on today is something that everybody believes and everybody's talking about, but I'd like to say it once more. Every analytics, artificial intelligence, or data initiative should have a business outcome tied to it. Okay, and so when you try to serve your internal stakeholders or you try to serve your external stakeholders, which I will be discussing about today, it's very important that you try to hit on those business metrics that define success. And they are very simple. It says a top line improvement, you create revenue, or bottom line improvement, you optimize margin, you reduce costs, you increase operational efficiency. And the reason I want to mention that to you is I've had the chance, like Kate described, to do that in the healthcare industry. So I was the first data business within the GE Healthcare company. And I had limitless access to data, limitless access to domain expertise, had access to great technologies. And the question was, how do we create more value for our customers? And I'll tell you 3 specific stories across clinical, financial, and operational outcomes. Hopefully they resonate with you. And what I do day in and day out is probably the best job in the world, is I help companies leveraging our platform to do just that, to infuse analytics into commercial offerings, either as a standalone or within their existing products, and to create that value for their customers and charge a little bit against that value to generate revenue. So monetization is my day-to-day job, and I'll share a little bit of that. I'll start with something that is relevant for this conference. You'll hear a lot of us data leaders, and I want to make a statement or a prediction that the pool of CEO by 2030, let's say 9-10 years from now, will actually consist of many chief data officers. And the reason is, if you listen carefully to all the presentations, to be a good chief data officer, you need a couple of things. One is you need to understand your market extremely well. Your market, your customers, how do you generate revenue today? How can you do more for your customers with the data, internal and external? You need to understand everything in your company. You cannot just be a vertical, everybody's delegating analytics to you and wish for the best. It has to be a cross-functional, cross-organization, cross-country effort. And the third one is you have to understand technology. So it's a real play around domain expertise, data, and technology, driving more value for your customers. And if I think of a good chief executive officer, well, usually they're going to be extremely good at those things. And so I believe there will be, and some of them are already there, a career path for CDOs that actually will become the chief executive officers. So pretty encouraging for all of us on this call. And the reason is one of those. So this is a study that came from Gartner some time ago, and I really relate to this one. Is we were born as data managers, and it's true in the healthcare industry, it's probably true in every industry as well. And But we were a cost center, usually buried into a CIO organization. And then because we knew how to move data securely around, then we were primed to become the best at extracting knowledge from that data. So we evolved into analytics leaders. It's not about the data, it's about the information. It's about the knowledge. It's about the impact of the information you can provide. And what's helped is at the same time, there's been this huge wave about the last 10, 15 years around digital transformation. And many failed, or many are still ongoing, I would say. The ones that have been extremely successful are the ones that center their digital transformation around data, because it's an existing asset within your company. And all you need is to add domain expertise and a little bit of technology to actually extract and create new value. But still, most of that would sit into a chief digital officer organization, which sometimes was under the chief information officer, and most of the time to serve your internal stakeholders. So here is the market for monetization. This is where it's born. Every company has been on that journey to extract value from their data. And it's true again for hospitals, healthcare systems, payers, and providers in the healthcare industry. And all of them have a huge backlog of things they still need to do. And what they start doing is say, you know what, I don't have to build it. I don't have to staff a 10-people organization, a 100-people organization to go after that. All I have to do is to buy the knowledge and the insights in order to make the decisions and create the value. And that demand to fulfill that backlog of analytics they cannot do internally is a demand of the analytics monetization market or data monetization market or whatever you want to call it, the need for company to create more value for their customers. And so companies start to answer to that. When I was at GE Healthcare, we started doing just that. We helped care teams, we helped prayer providers, we had pharma company, we have the insurance sector, not to create more analytics, but to consume more analytics. And guess what? This is when we became a profit center. And as a profit center, now you have a seat at the CXO table. That's why you see most of the new chief data officers that are being appointed sitting under directly the chief executive officer, because this is where the job belongs. It is a P&L role that should mandate to create value internally, create the DNA across the organization, and create value for their customers as a potential revenue stream. So super exciting times as we evolved into becoming a profit center. And the reason is simple, is data in itself is zero value. So if I sell you a bit of data, what I'm selling you is work. Somebody in your organization has to do something with it. Somebody has to find a way to visualize, present it, interact with the end user, the user experience, create some analysis, find someone who can make a decision. That person might make a decision only if and when they make a decision, value is created. And if value is created, the credit doesn't go to the person who gave the data. The credit will go to the person that made the work on that data. So again, if you sell data, if you sell basic reporting, all you're selling is work. And nobody likes to buy work. Or if they do, it's a commodity and it's a very low margin business. Now, if I sell you a financial outcome, as you use my analytics, I'm saving you $1 million, then you're into the money making. And you can price against that value. You can do value-based pricing, partnership, and that's what we see in the monetization market. And to do that, you need a platform like Sisense to embed and infuse those analytics in commercially offerings, whether they are services or products, so that they are embedded in the workflow at point of decision and people make money. So they generate financial outcomes for your customer and you get paid for those financial outcomes. So let me tell you stories in healthcare. I'll go through the 3 pillars that I think define the type of outcomes you find in healthcare. In every industry would be different. I work across industries. Today I'm going to focus on healthcare. So the main one, the most obvious to all of us, you should help to drive clinical outcomes. And so here is the type of solution we had built when we were at GE Healthcare. We would look at all the data across all the monitors, which gives the vital signs of all the patients in the hospital. And before that, what we were doing is we're selling the equipment. Here is the equipment to get those vital signs. Then we started saying, hold on, what if we looked at a command center, connect all that data together and present to the care team a prioritization workflow. I'm gonna tell the nurses, the care team, which patients need my attention next. So as opposed to go from room 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and start again, maybe I need to go to patient number 5 right now because the vital sign is showing a risk of an adverse event in the next 4 hours. And if I do just that, now I've optimized the time of the care team and I've optimized the clinical outcome. And so we sold that as a bundle on top of the monitors, and it did become a new revenue stream. What was interesting, though, is the value proposition was not the clinical outcomes to do the commercial transaction, was the financial outcome associated to that clinical outcome. It was the one that says, if you can move patients efficiently between critical bed, intensive care unit beds, and recovery bed or normal beds, you'll save about $16,000 a day per bed, because a high intensive care unit bed is $18,000 a day to run, and a normal bed is just $2,000. So being efficient at that movement between critical care and normal care was a secondary value proposition which I could use to do monetization. So even though it was a clinical outcome, we've commercialized it as a financial outcome. The second one is an operational outcome. So you look at workflows into a hospital, and the most expensive workflow, or one of the most two expensive workflows, one would be the cardiology workflows, the other one would be the imaging workflow. So you get a patient in, you get a scan, you get a read on that scan, and then you decide on a care plan. And so what we saw is that the data from those equipments, plus combined with the data from the EMR, the patient record system in the hospital, drove amazing insights that drove tremendous operational efficiency. You could use more your equipment and shift from 2 patients an hour on the CT scan to 2.5 patients an hour. And that effectiveness would drive more patients, give access to more care, and eventually drive savings, because those equipments are multi-million equipments. Optimizing your protocols, optimizing your schedules, making sure you have no revenue leakage as you do your referral for readings outside of the hospitals, and so. And so what was needed to solve for imaging analytics was an innovation framework where we can go after each of those outcomes one by one. And we ended up creating a suite of applications that specifically solve for all of those on the Sisense platform. So I didn't say that, but at G Healthcare, I was a Sisense customer and got me, I like the platform enough to become a Sisense employee. But the point is, we had a framework where technology was not the problem, domain expertise was not the problem, data was not the problem. I had all of those components. So all we cared about was what can we solve for? And we knew that we created value, we could charge for that value. The last example, a bit more obvious, similar to what we had on the previous work stream on financial services. There's a huge component of finance in healthcare as well. And that's in the revenue cycle management space. On this one, what we try to do is, can I optimize the financial flows between the payer, the provider, and the patient? And so things like a denied claim. So the hospital submit a claim on your behalf. The insurance says, no, I'm missing a comma somewhere. It goes back and forth 2-3 times. And every time you're losing $100 in the process. And the patient is not getting the cash, and the hospital is not getting paid, and the insurance is not happy because they still have the work to drive. So what we created here was a solution to flag, using the analytics, which claims are likely to be denied, which ones are not likely, less likely to be denied. So we could fix a good chunk of those before they actually were sent, and so they would not come back. That drove literally tens of millions of savings to some of the very large revenue cycle management healthcare systems. And so what I wanted to show by those 3 examples is technology was never what we would go and lead the discussion with. Data was actually very limited in the discussion. It was exclusively centered on the outcome. If you use it, how much money you're gonna save, how much better you're gonna be to take care of your patient, or how much more efficient will you be in delivering those outcomes. And by the way, if you're successful, I'd be happy to take a share. And so that's why we as a company, we created that platform that allows you to do just that. And we help hundreds of customers and have thousands of discussions almost monthly on what is it that we can do to create incremental value to our different markets, not just in healthcare, in all the industries we're gonna talk about today. And what we figured out is not about a good dashboard. Dashboard is one way to consume data. It's really the idea that as I'm about to make that decision, can you give me more context? Can you make me more intelligent in making that decision So it could be a notification, it could be a widget at the right place, but that's really infusing the analytics within the workflow that is driving the most efficiency towards a specific business outcome. So I'm super excited to be part of this conference because I'm hearing a lot of those themes. And Kate, if you want to come back, if there's some questions that I could get to.
Kate is back. You say my name and I'll hop back in, Charles. I felt myself just standing here watching and nodding with everything you were saying, Charles. Thank you so much for that great presentation. We have time for 2 comments and a question. So I'm going to go ahead and bring those up. First comment here is from Randy Bean, and he's saying that data leaders will be the next generation CEOs. I love it. Comment here from Kimberly. She's saying this is the truth. All data analysis boils down to increased revenue or decreased costs. If you can't show that, you cannot show the value of data analysis.
Kimberly, I cannot agree more.
Yeah.
When I look and assess, so I audit many analytics offerings. The first and only question almost is there a dollar sign or a euro sign or a pound sign on the landing page? Because if not, you're not in the right discussion. You're not quantifying the outcome.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we'll end off with this question here from Petrie. He's saying about this chief data officer thing. Do you see it as a P&L function or a cost function? This question is for everyone, but he wants to know your thoughts on it.
So I would almost argue there's 2 chief data officer, but there should be 1 role. There's 2 roles, but there's only one. It could be done by 1 person. One is to serve your internal stakeholders, and in that respect, the data governance, data compliance, data literacy, creating a data as a muscle for internal consumption is more of a cost center. But I personally see it as a P&L, because it is everybody else is doing the same thing, and if you can help them on that journey, then you should be able to monetize it. So I do believe a CDO should have P&L targets, should be measured on revenue, and use that revenue to reinvest into more advanced analytics and artificial intelligence and doing more for their internal stakeholders. It's a P&L. It was a P&L at GE Healthcare. It was the first time we did that, and it's a P&L for many companies that we advise.
For successful companies, right, Charles?
Yeah.
That's.
I mean, I'm not going to go too far, but if you don't try, you're just leaving money on the table. It's a crime. There's a cost of doing nothing that is much greater than a cost of doing it or trying it.
Right.
You've got the data, every one of you. You've got the domain expertise, and you have access to great technology. So there's no excuse. You have to try.
Awesome. Well, Charles, thank you so much for your time here today. We're going to keep this data party moving. Really, really great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate.